Situated at the juncture between Europe and Asia, Georgia is a country that embodies the best of Eurasian architecture, landscapes, and culture. But it is also home to more than 260,000 internally displaced people, or IDPs, some of whom were left homeless after the Georgia-Russia conflict of 2008. Barbed wire fences now divide Georgia from two Russian-backed breakaway regions, Abkhazia and South Ossetia.
This is not an internationally recognized border.
The fighting may have ended, but how has it affected those who must live with the consequences? And is the situation any closer to a resolution? In August 2008, fighting broke out between Russian and Georgian forces, following clashes between Russian-backed Ossetian separatists and Georgian troops. Georgia's president, Mikhail Saakashvili, moved troops into South Ossetia as Russia began airstrikes on key Georgian targets and sent armoured forces into Georgian territory. The fighting lasted only 5 days, but that was enough to leave hundreds of people dead and, according to the UN Refugee Agency, more than 190,000 people displaced. While many ethnic Ossetians moved back to their homes after the fighting ended, Georgian villages were destroyed, leaving more than 20,000 people homeless. Today, the scars of war are still visible, and Georgia is still divided. With Russian help, the separatist regions have fenced themselves off, and those 20,000 IDPs are prohibited from returning home. Many of them now live in settlements like this one, Seratvani, a community of 2,000 homes. So we've just arrived in the village of Seratvani, and first impressions are that it's not at all how you'd expect an IDP camp to be like. The buildings and shops are very robust, there are houses and a general sense of community. At the local school, some of the 904 students were born in Seratvani, and others are too young to remember life before the war. Head teacher Irma Tatashvili is from Akalgori, a village in South Ossetia. Were you a teacher back in your home village?
მე ახალგორის ყველაზე დიდი სკოლის პირველი საჯარო სკოლის დირექტორი ვიყავი ომამდე. ამჟამად სკოლაში მუშაობს 62 მასწავლებელი, რომელთა დიდი ნაწილიც თავისთავად ცხადია არის დევნილი.
Could this place ever be home, or when you think about home you still only think about your village?
ვერასოდეს ვერაფერი ვერ შემიცვლის ახალგორს. ჩემი ოჯახის ვერცერთ წევრს და ვერც მე. მიუხედავად იმისა, რომ ყოველდღიურობაში თითქოს ყველაფერი ნორმალურადაა.
Under the veil of normality, Seratvani feels like a community still in mourning, for lost homes, for old friends and family members, and most of all, for a sense of belonging. All the people we spoke to had horrifying accounts of the day they were forced from their homes. One of them was 75-year-old Nana Kakniashvili.
ეს 8 აგვისტო რომ დაიწყო მე ვერ გავუბედე და ვერ წამოვედი ვერ დავტოვე ჩემი საკარი დავჭით იქა ჩვენ უბანში 3 ადამიანი მოხუცებულა მე სარდაფი იყო და იქ ვიმალებოდით შივრები სულ შივრები მაყვალი იყო მწიფეი ატამი იყო მწიფეი მაგრამ ბაღებში არ შევდიოდა უი იმ ბომბებს აი ესე რო ვისხედით კედელს რახი გაქონდა ზედ ჩვენ გოგონა აი ახლა დაგვეცემა აი ახლა მაგრამ მაინც გადავხედო ჩემ მიწაწელსა ჩემს სახლსა როგორ არის ჩემი სახლს განადგურდა აღარ არის მაგრამ ის ადგილი საცავ ცხოვრობ ის მენატრება და ჩემი ქმრის სურათი რომ დავინახო იქ სასაფლაოზე მე პირადად თუ შევძლებ ავანტონს პირველად დავიჭერ დროშაზე და ისე წავა ისე წავა ოღონდაც კი დაუბრუნდა და ოღონდაც კი ჩემი წაწყალი ვნახო.
For Nana and the other IDPs in Saratvani, the reality is that they're unlikely to return home anytime soon. We're about 40 kilometers outside Tbilisi, back in the war of 2008. This is how far Russian tanks made it into Georgian territory. After the conflict, Russia officially recognized South Ossetia and Abkhazia as independent states, and the process of borderization began, with Russian and Ossetian border guards putting up barbed wire fences, green signs and border bases in the following years. Today, only a handful of countries recognize South Ossetia's independence, including Venezuela, Nicaragua and the Pacific island of Nauru. The EU Monitoring Mission, or EUMM, a neutral peacekeeping mission, now patrols the border, known as the Administrative Boundary Line, or ABL, as Representative Hassa Resenbro explains.
This is not an internationally recognized border. This is also why we refer to it as the Administrative Boundary Line, because this is not a border.
The ABL takes different forms. In this village, a graded mud path sprung up overnight, dissecting an orchard. Theoretically, if I stepped onto there, I could quite easily be arrested or I could create problems for the monitoring mission. All sorts of things could happen if I step literally on... Pardon me, sorry?
And for yourself?
And for myself.
So don't do that. The reality for this farmer is that what used to be his orchard is now what used to be his land has now been halved, cut into two.
So when we talk about the war 8 years on, or when we talk about the situation 8 years on, and when we talk about a modern day effect on the people that live in this region, this kind of thing is really what we're talking about.
This is what we talk about, yes.
In some places, the ABL isn't marked at all, which means that local people accidentally cross while herding cattle or farming their land. And when that happens, they're detained by Russian or Ossetian border guards.
Okay, you see the tree.
The
big
round tree, the round tree.
Yes.
Okay.
It's close. 1 meter close.
Yes, I see.
You see him?
Yes.
Yes.
One person in
Exactly.
camouflage uniform
Exactly.
under some kind of sun shelter or so.
So who is that likely to be? Who is that?
It could be South Ossetian border guard. It could be Russian Federation border guard. It's someone looking at us.
Looking at them?
Yeah, look at us. They look at us looking at them.
Could he just be a regular guy who lives around here?
No. I don't think so.
It
looks like a uniform, camouflage uniform.
Yeah, not particularly well camouflaged given that we can all see him. Although the EUMM are neutral, they're denied access into South Ossetia. They do, however, provide a hotline that is activated when someone is detained and then act as an intermediary between Russian, Ossetian and Georgian authorities. How often is that hotline activated because there's been someone detained?
That varies. That could be several times a week. It could be several times a day. Sometimes the family have to bring money to pay the fine, and then they're released.
There are 19 Russian bases along the ABL and a further 18 in Abkhazia. They guard the borders to make sure no one enters or leaves. So behind me is the Kasani River, and on the other side is South Ossetia, and we've been told by the Georgian authorities that if we tried to go any further, we'd be detained. Now what we'd really like to do is go over to South Ossetia and speak to some of the people there about what they think of the current situation. But unless you're from a country that recognises South Ossetia as its own independent state, that is simply impossible. In Tbilisi, a dedicated government ministry was started in 2008 to try and find a peaceful way to reconcile with Abkhazia and South Ossetia, known in Georgia as the Skin Valley region. we went to meet the State Minister for Reconciliation and Civic Equality, Keti Sikhalishvili.
What has been believed to be an illusion of independence, in fact, is a total and intense attempt of Russification. Russia uses unresolved conflicts as an attempt to exert political influence on its neighborhood.
Why not just say, do you know what, we're fighting an uphill battle here, it's destabilising the country to a certain extent, let's find a resolution where we give you complete autonomy and we go our separate ways. Why so desperately try to hold on to those territories?
To whom I'm speaking to, whom I'm telling this? Am I telling it to the people of Trinvali region in Abkhazia? Those people today live in IDP camps. They have a stake, they have homes, they have a say.
But in a country that remains divided, reconciliation and reintegration still seem a long way off. There are, however, a small number of Ossetian IDPs in Georgia. Back in Sanatvani, we met Vasily Totrov and his daughter Kiko. Vasily is married to a Georgian, and during the war they had no choice but to leave South Ossetia. How do people in South Ossetia feel about the situation here in Georgia at the moment?
იმ ხელმძღვანელობამ, რომელსაც სურს საქართველოსთან კავშირი გააწყოთ, საწარმოოს ის ნეგატიური ინფორმაციითი სამუშაოები, რომელიც მათზე მოახდენს ყველანაირად უარყოფით ზეგავლენას იმასთან დაკავშირებით, რომ საქართველოსთან ყველანაირად სიძულვილი დაუწესო.
What hopes do you have for your daughter after she's graduated? What sort of Georgia do you want her to graduate into?
იყოს ერებს შორის ჰარმონია, რა ვიცი, წესიერი დამოკიდებულება არ უნდა განასხვაო. შეთავაზებაც აქვს საქართველოს მთავრობას, მე მას ვეთანხმები. აი იმას, რომ სთავაზობ საქართველოს მთავრობა ავტონომიას და აბა ეხლა რა არის? ჩაკეტილია ცხინვალი და ვაკუუმშია, ხო? ვერ გამოდიან რუსეთის სახელით, არ გამოდიან საქართველოს სახელით და არ აქვთ თავეთი სტატუსი. გოგო, მოდი.
In Abkhazia and South Ossetia, the price of borderization is isolation. Unrecognized and inaccessible, the physical divide not only splits the country, but also families and communities. For the time being at least, these two territories remain in a state of limbo.